everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 3 English lesson on describing characters. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts. We're doing grade 3, and the lessons that we are focusing on under the chapter of grade 3. Actually, we're doing, and then we're going to scroll down up until we do describing characters. All right. So we're doing describing characters. Our subject is English Language Arts. We're doing grade 3. And the lessons that we are focusing on under describing characters is to use actions and dialogues to understand characters and to show character emotions and traits. All right, guys, to I'm going to try as much as possible to project my voice, but as you can hear, I'm not feeling so well, right? So I currently have the flu, so it has affected my voice. But I am trying, right? But do let me know if you can't hear me, and I will just try to speak a bit louder if I can. But this is the loudest that I can go. All right, so once again, we doing the chapter of describing characters. Our subject we said is English Language Arts. Grade 3. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of describing characters. It's to use actions and dialogues to understand characters and to show character emotions and traits. All right. So when it comes to describing characters, right, in a story, just think of in a story and remember when it comes to a story, you need to describe how characters are, the characters' emotions. You need to describe their traits, right? So within a story, the characters' actions and dialogues, they can tell you what they are like and how they feel. So sometimes if, for example, the character is the villain, right? Or always seem the character always seem angry and wants to fight, then it means that that character is the villain within the story, right? Or if the character constantly cries, right? Or is sad or emotional, that is the character's emotion, right? So with each character, each there's an emotion that is placed, or there's an emotion that is put with how we describe each of the characters. And that is also based on what they do, how they do things, right? As well as what they say. That is to do with the dialogue. Dialogue is how and what they say. So basically, in all of the stories, the characters' actions, what they do, right, how they feel, what they say, which is the dialogue, it can tell you what they are like and how they feel. All right. And then if we look at an example of describing characters, right? And then it says, Maya's face turned a beet red, right? So Maya's face turned a beet red. Did anyone see that? She stuttered. So if we look at what that person had said, if somebody turns red, right? Let's say we say something or we do something and now the person's face turns red. What do you think that means? If somebody's face just turns red. So if somebody's face usually turns red, it can either mean that the person is extremely angry, right? The person's face turns red, or it can mean that the person is embarrassed, right? Because the person's face turns red. Red with embarrassment, or sometimes it can be red with anger. It really depends on what how the person feels or what the person had said. But in this case, the person's face turned red because it shows that the person was embarrassed. Yes, so it can be mad, it can be angry, or it can be where the person is embarrassed. So well done. So here it says Maya's face turned beet red. Did anyone see that? She stuttered. And that means that Maya is embarrassed. You can tell because people often blush and stutter when they are embarrassed. So in this case, the person is embarrassed, not just because the face turns betrayed, but because of the stuttering part. So even when you're scared, and then your face can turn red, right? So there's different ways, but definitely when you're scared, when you're mad, when you are embarrassed, and then your face turns beet red, right? And I think that the mean beet red, which is also being described with, it's being compared to, let's say, your beetroot. I think because beet red, that is the only thing I can think of. All right. So once again, when it comes to describing characters, right? Within any story, the characters' actions, what the characters do, how they respond, as well as the dialogues. They can tell you what they are like and how they feel. And here we made an example of Maya. And we said Maya is embarrassed, but like we said, if somebody's face turns betrayed, it doesn't necessarily just mean that the person is embarrassed. It can also mean that the person is angry. It can mean that the person is mad or the person is even scared, right? So, yes, that can also mean that the person's face turns red or a reason for the face turning red. All right. So now we're going to aplusstudents.ca and we are going to look at more examples of using actions and dialogues to understand characters. And we're also going to show characters' emotions and traits. All right. So we're going to the first lesson where we're going to use actions and dialogues to understand characters. All right. So we said that in the story, the characters' action and the dialogue, they can tell you what they're like and they can tell you how they feel. right? If we look at another example, it says Andrew was so scared he was shaking. So Andrew was so scared he was shaking. Still, he held his head high and walked onto the stage. If we look at the sentence that says Andrew was so scared he was shaking, still he held his head high and walked onto the stage. How do you think Andrew really felt? So, how do you think he really felt since he had to walk on the stage? So, here it says Andrew was so scared he was shaking. Still, he held his head high and walked onto the stage. Now, especially the fact that he was scared, right? The shaking part basically tells us that he was scared. Can also be nervous, yes. Because remember, he might just maybe he has to maybe do a recital. So now there's a lot of people and he is nervous. Yes, well done. Nervous can be maybe one thing. Maybe it's not just that he's really scared, but it's like he's maybe nervous because there's a lot of people watching, right? What if he messes up, right? So he is nervous. Well done. Nervous is one of the ways in which we can describe Andrew. Or let's say we can describe his character or his emotion, how he felt. Yes, well done. All right, yeah, it says Kyle's handwriting had become sloppier. So Kyle's handwriting has become sloppier. He found his eyes wandering from his paper to the tree outside the window. If we say that somebody's hand has become sloppier, they are not being focused, right? This person is constantly looking outside. How can we describe this character of a person? So, how can we describe that character when somebody is constantly wandering outside? Handwriting is more sloppier. What does that mean? All right, so if somebody's looks more sloppy, somebody's handwriting becomes more sloppier, they are not focused in class, they constantly look outside the window, right? Then maybe they are looking out the window because they are bored, right? They want to go and play outside. The periods are maybe too long, right? So now they are wondering, looking around the class, looking outside the window, right? Because now they are bored. Yes, they're bored. Maybe they're tired of listening. All right. So here it says that with Kyle's handwriting being more sloppier, we can say that Kyle is bored because now he's not paying attention. He is bored. He's not paying attention. He's not listening to what the teacher is saying, right? His attention is elsewhere. His attention is outside. Maybe he's thinking of playing football with the others. Maybe he's thinking of whatever activities that he's going to do, right? But he is just not listening in class, right? Because he is bored. All right. If we look at the next one, it says Debbie was talking to him, but Jeffrey got out his phone and began scrolling through his messages. So Debbie was talking to him, but Jeffrey got out his phone and began scrolling through his messages. How would you describe somebody like that? If you are busy talking all the time, another person just takes out their phone and they began scrolling through their phone, how would you feel? And what would you think that person is? What do you call somebody that does that when they supposed to, when you are talking to them and they just end up taking out their phone and they start scrolling through the phone? How would you feel and how would you describe that type of person? Yes, you can describe that person as rude. It's very rude, actually, yes. So we can describe Jeffrey as being rude. How else can we describe Jeffrey? Other than being rude, how can we describe Jeffrey? So basically, based on, the sentence, Jeffrey is rude. Jeffrey is disrespectful, right? It's the same as you are talking to somebody and the person just, continues, right? And playing the Xbox, start playing the PSP. That is rude. That is disrespectful. So well done. Bobby finally found Mrs. Hurst and told her what had happened. She patted his arm and said, "Remember that this too shall pass." So Bobby finally found Mrs. Hurst and told her what had happened. She patted his arm and said, "Remember that this too shall pass." How would you describe Mrs. Hurst? What do you think she's like? Yes, we can say that she's very wise. How else? How would we describe Mrs. Hurst? All right. So basically, we can say that Mrs. Hurst is wise. She's caring. She's nurturing, right? Because she listened to him and said that, "Remember that this too shall pass." So well done. We are going to a test now where we're going to use actions and dialogues to understand characters. It says, read the sentence. When Maria said hello, Mr. Ballard replied with only a short grunt. So when Maria said hello, Mrs. Ballard replied with only a short grunt. So if we look at this statement, what is Mr. Ballard probably like? How would we describe Mrs. Ballard? Ballard. Is he patient or is he unfriendly? Because Maria said hello. Maria greeted him and he replied with only a grunt. So does that make him a patient man or does it make him unfriendly? All right, so if Mr. Ballard replies only with a grunt, we can say that this is an unfriendly man. Yes, option two. He is unfriendly. All right, let's read the next sentence. It says, let's go, Amanda said. I can't wait a second longer. How do you think Amanda feels? She says, let's go. I can't wait a second longer. Is she excited or is she confused? And yes, unfriendly is correct. And now with this one, let's go, Amanda said. I can't wait a second longer. It does this mean that she's excited, option one, or she's confused, option two? So if we look at how Amanda feels, then yes, we can say option one. She's excited. Well done. She's excited. Let's look at the next one. The next one says Kyle's handwriting has become sloppier. He found his eyes wandering from his paper to the tree outside the window. So, based on that sentence, how is Kyle probably feeling now that he's busy writing the paper? Easy option one, bored. So, Kyle's handwriting had become sloppier. He found his eyes wandering from his paper to the tree outside the window. Does he become a C one? Is he option one bored or two option two is he grouchy? Bored option one or grouchy option two? All right, so we can say based on how Kyle is feeling, we can say that he is bored. Especially since you're wandering around, you're busy writing a paper, they are bored. So well done. All right. Yeah, it says as soon as the groups were announced, Roger took charge. Paula and I will do the research, and Dean can make the posters. Any questions? Based on what we read, what is Roger probably like? Is he commanding or is he timid or timid? We need to describe Rogan and say what he's like. Is he commanding that they must do certain things, or is he timid? Was it timid? All right. If we look at that word commanding, right? Commanding is you telling somebody to do this and you telling somebody to do that, right? And then we have the word timid, and that is when somebody is either shy or somebody is nervous, right? Meaning it's like they're always shy, they're always nervous. They have a lack of confidence, right? That is what the second word means. So we can say that he is commanding in a good way. So well done. Option one is correct. I'd say Susan whistled as she bounced up the steps to the library. So Susan whistled as she bounced up the stairs to the library. How do you think Susan is feeling? Is Susan happy or happiness? Is Susan happy or happiness? We need to say how Susan is feeling. All right. And if we were to say how Susan feels, then we can say she's happy because she's bouncing up and down the steps. She's whistling, which means that she is happy. So well done. Yes, she's happy. Option one. Well done. All right, and if it says here, at the end of the game, Toby walked off the field, head down, trying to hold back tears. How do you think Toby is feeling? It says he walked off the field, head down, trying to hold back his tears. Is he disappointed or is he eager? So if we were to describe Toby, right, because he walks off the stage and he basically is holding back his tears. So we can say that he's disappointed. Maybe the match is not going as planned, so he's disappointed. All right. It says at the end of the night, the team had to pick one player to keep the trophy. It should definitely be Derek. Definitely be me, Derek said. Now we need to basically say what Derek probably is like. What is Derek like? And if we were to say what Derek is like, at the end of the night, the team had to pick one player to keep the trophy. It should definitely be me, Derek said. Do you think Derek is being selfish or do you think Derek is being friendly? And if we were to choose the correct one, we would say that Derek is selfish because he wants to basically keep the trophy on its own. So well done. So now we're going to show emotions and we're going to show the traits of specific characters within the stories. All right, so now we're going to look at these pictures, at these words, right? These stories. And then we're going to say, we're going to show the emotions and we're going to show the traits of them. It says, you are writing a story about Damon, who has a bee in his nose, on his nose. Choose the best description to show Dion is calm. All right, so here it says, you are writing a story about Damon, who has been on his knees. We need to choose the best description to show that he is calm. All right. Let's look at the next one. It says, you are writing a story about Mandy who hears some bad news. We need to choose the best description to show that Mandy is disappointed. Right? So when the person, to show that the person is bored and disappointed. But if somebody feels that way, then it means that they're actually bored, they're disappointed. All right. So if we look at that sentence specifically, right, where we can say that, yeah, it says, you are writing a story about Mandy who hears some bad news, right? So if she hears bad news, now she's forced to smile because she's disappointed, right? All right, let's just do one. I know it is not time, but let us do one at least to show emotions and traits. It says, you're writing a story about Shona, who is a new student. Choose the best description to show that Shona is shy. How can we describe that she's shy? Is it option one? Shona glanced at the clock. How was it not even noon yet? Sighing. She is resting her head on the desk. Or option two, Shona buried her hands in her pockets and fixed the eyes on the floor. We need to choose option one or option two to basically tell us how Shona is feeling. So which one is correct? All right. So if we were to choose the correct option, then yes, we will choose option two, right? Because that will show that she is shy. All right. So this is the end of our lesson on describing characters. Remember, in a story, describing a character means that you tell us how and what the character looks like, what the character feels like, the emotions of the characters, right? And that will basically show and describe us what type of person or what type of character it is. So this is the end of the lesson. Thank you very much for joining, and I really hope you're going to have a good weekend further. So till next time, goodbye. So goodbye.